Greetings, lovely people, and welcome to Fast Track Thoughts, where I give my thoughts on the newest shows and movies that come out, and today we're going to be talking about Secret Invasion, Episode 1, Resurrection. Roll that intro. Okay, so where to begin with this? So, first off, I just want to point out I'm not going to be covering this in my typical format of kind of running through the episode and discussing it bit by bit. Instead, I'm just going to be talking about my general thoughts, which is kind of more on brand for this series than what I used to do. But in any case, just a quick rundown of some of the major plot points. Basically, we are in modern-day Moscow of the MCU, so I believe technically it is like 2026 or something. I can't remember the exact year. It never specifies because they've given up actually putting a timeline to things. But essentially, it is modern MCU timeline at Moscow. And we start actually with Agent Ross, which was really interesting. And from the get-go, I was pretty confident with Ross being a Skrull. Most people have been for a very long time. However, there is a slight twist. And obviously, if you haven't seen the episode yet, spoilers ahead, this is just going to be full-on. I'm discussing what happened. So if you haven't seen it, watch it first, then come back here. But yeah, we start off with Agent Ross, and yeah, he's on some sort of mission in Moscow, and he comes across another agent, which I didn't write down the name, unfortunately, who is onto the idea that Skrulls are taking over the world, so to speak. They are actually actively involved in a lot of terrorist acts, apparently. I think they state that there's been 5 terrorist attacks in the last year that all seem to be vaguely connected, despite different organizations and terrorist groups taking responsibility, so to speak. So it's a very interesting perspective. It's very much that the CIA is onto the Skrulls, which is why Ross presumably is involved. And generally, it's a weird way to start off things. Like, we've known that Skrulls are somewhat known by the government, especially the US government, since it probably would have been I guess it would have been Far From Home, I assume. Spider-Man Far From Home was probably the first time we knew for a fact that that was a known thing within the universe, though that was also a Mysterio hologram, so maybe not. But in any case, the government of the US, and presumably world governments in general, are familiar with the Skrulls. They are familiar that they are among us, and most importantly, they know what happened in the events of Captain Marvel. They know that Carol Danvers and Nick Fury went to try and, find a new home for the Skrulls and rehabilitate them, relocate them, so to speak. And it's very interesting that we're going, years after Captain Marvel at this point, still going back to those plot points from, the 90s or whatever. I don't know, or 80s, or when's Captain Marvel set? Whatever. Either way, it's a very interesting plot point that, the CIA and stuff knows. In any case, as I said in the preamble there, Agent Ross is revealed to be a Skrull, and it's not actually Ross. So, how these Skrulls work in the MCU, and we've known this for a little while, is different from the comics. In the comics, you basically have to have control over the individual that you're turning into. You can't just choose who you want to be and become them. You have to have them captured in a machine, and, you're essentially absorbing their identity, I suppose. It's kind of hard to explain properly, and I don't really have the time to go through it right now, but essentially, in the MCU, it's different because you can become any form you want at any time. The only thing that you need the human, captured is for their memories and their knowledge. So, if you don't need deep cover as a Skrull, you can just become whatever you want, and it's pretty reasonable that that's actually been how we've been experiencing Skrulls throughout the MCU history. It would make a lot of sense, but in any case, Agent Ross was just being represented by a doppelganger. He's presumably perfectly fine, probably doing something over in Wakanda or whatever, but in any case, Agent Ross, at least the one we're following, is killed, revealed to be a Skrull, and Maria Hill, who has been, following Ross and actually trying to help him, calls in Fury after Talos is revealed to have been the one that killed Agent Ross. So, yeah, the gang's all back together. We have Maria Hill, Nick Fury, and Talos, who, if you don't know, is the main Skrull from Captain Marvel. And he's also referred to as Agent Kelly. That's more of his human disguise, Agent Kelly. It gets referenced a few times. I'm probably not going to mention it too much in this, but just in case I do, there you go. And, yeah, we find out that not only has Talos's wife, partner, whatever you want to call her, has died during presumably the blip, though it's unclear exactly when it happened, but also Fury legitimately has not been on Earth in a long time, and obviously we kind of knew about that due to the events of Spider-Man, the post-credit scene and stuff, pointing to the fact that he'd been on Saber for a very long time. But yeah, Maria has not seen him in 5 years, and I think that doesn't include the actual blip, because obviously Fury was blipped along with Maria Hill, so that is a long time for Nick Fury to be essentially MIA, still known location when he was, not blipped, because he was on Saber, but away from all his main friends and contacts, which is very, very interesting to me. We do end up following the new Skrull home, which is New Skrullos. It is on Earth. It is in Moscow near a nuclear plant, I do believe. And we are introduced to Gaia, which technically introduced is the wrong word. Gaia is Talos' daughter. We met her in Captain Marvel. And she's grown up. She's now played by Emilia Clarke, which I think is fine. I don't have an issue, really. I'm not going to get into much of the casting. I think generally this entire cast is pretty good. But Gaia is one of the lead characters, one of the lead warriors within this new Skrull rebellion, Skrull army, I guess. And the leader of which is Gravik, who is seemingly a character we should have met before. I don't remember Gravik, but apparently Fury does. In any case, we're probably going to get revealed why Gravik is known to Fury. For now, Gravik is just the big bad of this series. We know he exists, blah de blah. Continue on as we do. So, Gaia is running a few different missions to get bombs for Gravik, is confronted by Talos at times. We also have a scene of Talos fighting another Skrull. He's a bit out of his element a little bit. I feel like Talos at this point, he's pretty old even by Skrull standards, and it's starting to show. It's starting to wear him down. He says he's only 40 by human standards, but he clearly is starting to struggle physically, especially against some of the younger Skrulls that he comes up against, including this one in a I guess an art gallery or an art auction house or something like that. And yeah, Fury ends up killing that Skrull for the record. And yeah, so Talos and Gaia have a bit of a confrontation, revealing that, Talos' wife, Gaia's mother, is dead to Gaia and was killed by the terrorist organization that Gaia is now working for, Gravik's organization. And yeah, it just kind of goes sideways a bit. We are shown where the bombs are going to be placed. Gaia tries to help as best she can by marking all the bags that have the bombs in them. It doesn't work out. There's a lot of decoys on show, and it just ends up with the attack actually happening, the bombs going off, and a lot of people getting either injured or very bad, killed. I'm about to say injured or very badly hurt. That's the same thing. Injured or killed in the explosion. And in the confusion, Gravik actually turns into Nick Fury and kills Maria Hill. And this isn't a cop-out. This isn't anything, oh no, she's, gone, quote-unquote. No, Maria Hill, according to everything, is dead now. It's not a Skrull cop-out, she is human, she is the human Maria Hill. And on top of that, in interviews, Kobe Smulders has actually said she's done. She thinks this is the end for Maria Hill, which would make sense. There's also in the credits, it says special guest Kobe Smulders, so clearly Maria Hill isn't going to be in the rest of the series at the very least. Either way, though, that does mean that Maria Hill is now gone and done. And I don't know how I feel about that. I'm a fan of Maria Hill. I think that if Maria is going to, continue as, like, at this point, she's still kind of the sidekick to Nick Fury, even though she's not, S.H.I.E.L.D. anymore. It just seems weird to me that they would kill off a character so integral to Fury's story in the way that they did. And it feels like a cop-out in some ways. I've seen a lot of communication online, a lot of conversation online, kind of saying that it is kind of a cop-out in itself. It's a bit of a trope, especially for this sort of series, to have someone that's kind of high importance killed so quickly. And overall, it doesn't feel great. And I don't know if that was a point or not, to be like, anyone can die. I think there'd be better ways of showing that. They already had the cop-out with Ross. It's just difficult to kind of look at it as a whole and be like, well, we already saw Ross die, and then it was a cop-out. We already saw, well, we didn't even see, we heard that Talos' wife died off-screen, and, it doesn't really do anything other than give Gaia some other motivations. Having Maria Hill die, it just adds to this pot of, what is this series trying to be? Because it wants to be taken seriously, and a lot of people pointed out this. It's trying to be serious, but it's struggling, and it's because it's kind of a funny concept. It's Secret Invasion in the MCU. In the comics, that was a very terrifying event. It was an event where anyone could be anyone. In the MCU, we kind of know which characters can or can't be, and that's the reason why characters like Ross and Maria Hill and Nick Fury and Rhodey are all in this series, which I haven't even mentioned. Rhodey, War Machine, whatever you want to call him, is in this series. We see him for one scene in this episode. He's going to be in future episodes a little bit more. But yeah, every character we've had major suspicions of within the MCU timeline for being a Skrull has been in this series in the first episode, which is a power move and a half, showing that Maria Hill isn't a Skrull, like, truly. Like, she just is Maria Hill. She's just a human. That's fine. Nick Fury, presumably not a Skrull, although could be. Obviously, you've got Talos, who is a Skrull. We know that already, and isn't trying to hide as anyone else. He is admittedly Talos. Then we also have Everett Ross, Agent Ross, who legitimately was a Skrull temporarily. Like, in general isn't, but, like, that specific version, that cop-out was, which is really interesting. There's just a lot of things, and we still don't know about Rhodey. Rhodey could very well end up being a Skrull. It's doubtful, but who knows, really. Like, there's a lot of evidence for and against Rhodey being a Skrull. I prefer if he isn't, but it would be a very interesting turn if they showed that he actually was. I don't know. For me, I'm fine with them doing what they've been doing with, like, Everett Ross here, where, anyone can be a Skrull, but that doesn't mean that character is a Skrull indefinitely. Like, that just means that character is being impersonated in some way, which I think is a lot better of a system. I don't know for sure. It's up in the air, really. We'll see how this series goes in terms of that. But, yeah, there's just a lot going on for the first episode, and a lot of, I don't know if sudden reveals is the right way of putting it, but just things where I'm just like, I don't know why they've necessarily gone with that for the first episode, but realistically, like, this show seems fine. I'm not sold yet, and I'm hoping it will get a little bit better. There's some slightly janky elements. Fury is now walking with a limp, which that's hopefully going to be explained pretty soon. He's seemingly aged a hell of a lot in the last 10 years. Of MCU time. Obviously, I know Samuel Jackson is getting old now. Like, I'm not saying, oh, Samuel Jackson looks old. I'm saying they've purposely made him older than he was, essentially. And it is actually pointed out a few times that he's the old Nick Fury, as in he is old Nick Fury, like how it's Old Man Logan sort of thing, that sort of way of referring to him. I don't know. There's something about aging a character in this way where I'm just kind of confused about it. There is a very nice joke, though, about aging, where Talos is talking about he hasn't even had his midlife crisis shopping spree, and he asks what Nick Fury's was, to which he responds, the Avengers, which I think that's a good joke. But yeah, just generally, I don't know, this series is starting off on a weird foot, and hopefully it's good. Hopefully the rest of it is, great, honestly. But as is, I don't know. I'm not giving an actual review until everything's out, and I'll give an actual, like, score. But This is fine. This is good. It's middling. It's above average, I would say, but it's nothing special in the grand scheme of the MCU. A lot of people comparing this to things like Love and Thunder and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumanium. I don't think it's quite as bad as Quantumanium, and I don't think it's quite as entertaining so far as Love and Thunder, but it's fine. I'm going to continue watching it. I'm going to try and continue to cover it in these videos, but really that's everything I can say for episode 1 of Secret Invasion Resurrection. I don't know what the resurrection means. I guess it's resurrection of Nick Fury, potentially. But in any case, that's going to be it for this video. So I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like it, subscribe if you're new and ring that bell so you never miss upload. Otherwise, comment below, what did you think of the first episode of Secret Invasion? If you're watching this after the fact and the entire series is out, tell me what your thoughts are on the entire series. And in any case, it's going to be it from me. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!